In 2004, we were youth pastors here. We had come in 2004, and in that year, Isaac started kindergarten. Isaac started kindergarten here. Miss Stapp, I think you had him in kindergarten. Bless your heart and soul. If I'd have known just how sweet you were, I may have not stressed quite so much. But I went and dropped Isaac off in kindergarten class, and here's what happened. When I walked away from the door of dropping him off at kindergarten, my heart began to ache in a way that I could not control. And so I came over to the church, which is what I would normally do that morning, and I came and sat right over here on this side at the altar, and I cried for 1 solid hour when I dropped Isaac off at kindergarten. Now, you'd think I'd have learned that everything's going to be okay when it was time to drop Logan off at the same kindergarten class. However, it was a repeat of the former year. I had not grown, not one bit. I dropped Logan off, and I drove to the church, and for 1 solid hour, I sat in the same spot, bawling my eyes out, because Logan was at kindergarten. And then 4 years later, I dropped Abby off at pre-K. And I say, Misty, did we drop her off together? Thank you. Thank you for that. I want to show you a picture. It's not as clear as it should or we want it to be. Hopefully we'll have laser printers one of these days. But y'all have always wondered what I would look like without my beard. Like a 4-year-old, if you will. Kill the stage lights and they'll see it more clearly. Yeah, that's us, and that's Abby. I think that's pre-K. Am I right? Okay, I got to clear all this through Misty on my memory. This is pre-K, and we're there together. We're dropping her off, and you'd have thought after 4 years that I'd have figured out how to handle all of this. And facts, I did not. I spent that day crying my eyes out that day. Cried at kindergarten graduation. I just cry a lot. Yeah. The thing in my family is, don't tell Dad, he'll cry. Okay. Well, let me at least on some level show you why I'm crying. Go to the next one. This image is why I'm crying. That is the depiction in a nutshell of the reason why I'm crying. Here's my greatest fear, that dropping my kids off at school, that this is what was going to happen. That there was going to be a group of kids who knew each other from wherever, and they were going to make sure that the new kid that just got dropped off was going to stay outside of that circle. And that I was going to have my kindergartner, my 5-year-old, whether it be I felt like they'd be okay in the classroom, but I was concerned that when they got out to the playground, that they were going to be out there alone, not having anybody, not knowing anybody, and feel completely and totally isolated from everybody else. I was afraid they were going to be rejected out of circles just like that. And they were going to find themselves of feeling alone and not approved by the people that they were going to school with. And man, it strangled me. It strangles me today to some degree, but it strangled me as a parent to think that it's one thing for me to walk through it, but it's another thing for my child to have to walk through it. And it strangled me to the point that all I could do was sob with my heart broken, thinking that might happen. Now, I've got some pretty, how can I say, my kids adapt well. They make friends easily. They have had a great experience. None of that mattered to me. That didn't matter because the emotion that I was feeling was strangling me around the throat. It was a fear of rejection. Now, here's what I began to learn is that that's coming more so from me than it is for them. It's because that is my greatest fear too. To walk into a room and to be outside looking in and be rejected by the people that are kind of around is actually my greatest fear. So What I want to preach to you about today is just that regard. The deepest longings of our heart are for acceptance and approval can only be satisfied, hear this, in the gospel of Jesus Christ. Our deepest longings of being accepted can only really be satisfied in the gospel of Jesus Christ. All other relationships are secondary to that truth. See, in all of us, we have this longing to be liked, to belong, to be a part of someone or with someone. We all have that, y'all. It's in all of us. And we desire that craving. However, here's the reality, is that you never really feel at home with people until you have first found your home in the Lord. I'm telling you. You're constantly going to be striving for someone who meets that itch or scratches that itch if you don't at some point come across the gospel of Jesus Christ and realize that the thing that you're actually longing for is an eternal home or an eternal family, let's say. There's an eternity in your heart that is craving and longing a home that this place cannot provide. And if we don't first tap into that reality, we are going to be always craving some sort of relationship that will scratch that itch, so to speak. The idolatry of our own hearts will cause us to substitute human acceptance for God acceptance. See, some of us have become satisfied with being liked by people, and it's a substitute for being liked by God. It's always been interesting to me. Do you know some of the hardest people to win to the Lord are popular people? Do you know why it's hard to win popular people to the Lord? Because they are completely satisfied with being popular with the people that they're around, and they don't really need Jesus. I'm already preaching. I know it's the intro, but I'm already preaching. That's why you shouldn't clamor for popularity. It's dangerous. Because, here, let me say it another way. Do you know who it's easier to win to Jesus? Unpopular people. People who have been rejected. People who haven't been a part of the in crowd. People who have been alone a lot. And when you share the gospel message that there is no condition to a relationship with the Lord and that He loves you right where you are and you can be His and He can be yours, they are craving that so much that they are much more receptive to a gospel message than somebody who has everybody. Man, I'm doing a really good job, and it's the intro already, and we got, it's just going to get better from here. Praise the Lord, okay? And that's the substitute. I'm okay with human approval, and I don't necessarily need God's approval. And our social media culture isn't helping anything. Hey, did you hear about the fish? You probably didn't hear. I'll just tell you what it is. So there's one fish swimming this way. Crystal, I'm going to share. There's one fish swimming this way, and two fish are swimming this way. And the one fish says to the two fish, "How's the water today, boys?" And they all kind of nod, and they swim that way. They get a few clicks down, and one fish looks at the other fish and says, "What's water?" That is a great illustration of culture. You're swimming in something and you don't even realize it. You are swimming today, ladies and gentlemen, in the antithesis, at least so far in human history, of a need for human approval. I'll prove it to you. How do you feel when you don't get very many likes when you put a post up? I know people who will actually take their posts down because they didn't get enough likes on the post they put up. If that's not a desire for human approval, I don't know what is. You are swimming in a water right now of human approval, and you may not even know it. There are habits that you have and that I have formed so that I can be liked by people. And I want you to understand this. If there is a heightened level of being liked by people, there's going to be a lowered level of being liked and approved by God. Let me say it another way. What's most important to us, church family? Is it to be approved by the Lord, or is it to be approved by someone we know or a group we know? This is a big deal. This is a big deal. Let me keep moving. Our relationships are incapable. Let me jump down into this. I read a devotional every morning. It's Tim Keller's Wisdom Literatures. It's a really short devotional that you do every day. And he speaks to this very issue. And he says there's 4 categories that the human heart craves and longs for that are outside of longing for God. And this is the first one. It's human approval. And this is what he says. He says, if we look to human beings more than to God for our worth and value, we will be trapped by a number of different ways. I'm going to share a few of them with you. Number 1, people who long for human approval, they're anxious people. Their lives are fueled with anxiety because they're not sure if that person likes them, and not only that, do they like me enough? Am I valuable enough to that person? And that will produce a life of anxiety if you have a heightened level of need for human approval. My value is attached to what you think about me. I'm always going to be anxious that I perform just right for you. Say it another way. He says, you're going to have an over need to please people. Yeah. Another way to say it, you're a people pleaser. You're a Republican when you're with Republicans, and you're a Democrat when you're with Democrats. That one didn't get you? You're an OSU fan with the OSU guys, and then you got another shirt for OU. I don't have any respect for that at all. Well, you know, I root for OSU when they're not playing OU. I don't. I always want OU to lose. Always. I don't care what it is. Gymnastics, I don't care. Huh? Babe, do you want to stay in the family? Right? Well, if I'm with this group, you know, I like this person, and this person. But when I'm with that other group, well, I like this person and this person. Hey, I know they're crazy. I don't have it. You're a people pleaser, man. That's people pleasing. And he says that if that's your height, that's where you find your value is in that, you're going to be a people pleaser. He says it will produce the inability to withdraw from harmful relationships. How many of you seen the heartbrokenness of that? Where you've got somebody that you love who has hitched their wagon to somebody that's taken them the wrong direction, and you cannot convince them to come the other way. Why can't you convince them to turn? Because they have this overarching desire. They found belonging with that person. And the idea of turning from them is they can't conceive that. And so they keep doing things that they know are destructive and they can't get out. He says there's a cowardice that comes with being a people pleaser, a cowardice that makes us unable to confront someone. He says your feelings will easily be hurt if you're a people pleaser because you care so much about what people think about you. He goes on to say we will tend to overcommit out of a desire to be liked. How many of you in the room today, you can't tell someone no? Raise your hand. Oh, look, you guys, this is a hospital, okay? This is a hospital. You have walked into a place where we are a bunch of dysfunctional people who are confessing it. Okay? Let's try this again. Because some of y'all went. How many of you have a hard time telling people no? That's more like, gee, Chris, what are we doing? knew you were in here. Well, odds are this sermon is for you. And my hand's up too. That we have a hard time telling people no. What's that coming from? It's because, I got to make you happy. I got to make you happy. Okay? He says some examples. A parent who is a parent who is afraid to discipline their children could be a people pleaser. Now, and there's some of you, I can see it in your face. Well, I don't have that problem. Hey, Seth, Autumn Dean does not have that problem. I sat in the foyer. Little Brindley did something that was not okay. And Autumn jumped right in the middle of that. And I thought, I'm going to walk away from the door. So I walked away. And I look over my shoulder. Here she come out, and she looked at Misty and I and said, "Where's a good, quiet place to take her?" I was scared. I said, "Take her to the altar." She said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Maybe the bathroom." And sure enough, here in a minute, I heard, "No, whop, whop, whop." Whee! And then I thought, okay. And then I turned around, door was open. What did I see? Little Brindley with her head on her shoulder like this. And, Autumn just patting her and walking back. Autumn don't have that problem. But some parents have an issue with disciplining their kids. Why? Because they want to be liked by their children. What a burden to bear for a child that their job is to make their parent happy. You're putting a weight on that kid that they cannot bear. And I could go on. I got to get moving because that's the intro. That's the intro. Get comfortable. That's the intro. Let's chat. Abraham was afraid of dying. Abram was afraid of dying. What a recipe for a marriage disaster is this? We're strolling into a new town. They're going to probably kill me because you're good looking. They're going to want you. They're probably going to kill me. So here's an idea. How about we tell them you're my sister so I can live? Now, I don't know about where chivalry was in Abram's kind of laundry list of a kind of guy he wanted to be, but it was obviously low down on the list. And Sarah, I don't know if she was forced to go along with it. I don't know if she just said, yeah, I'd like to try somebody new anyway. You're driving me crazy. This is an out for me. See ya. I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't on the chariot. I don't know how it went down. All I know is they said, that's my sister. And Pharaoh was like, sweet. She's good looking. Bring her into my harem. Now, you can, people do dumb things. Okay, let's just say that. But you can't get anything slid by God. And God has a way of making wrong things right. And so what did he do? He started cursing Pharaoh. I'm thinking, how about cursing Abram? I think this was his plan. Instead, you kept giving him camels and donkeys and goats and all kinds of stuff. See, that's why a prosperity gospel is sneaky. You got to be careful because not all the time when you're getting blessed does that mean that's the favor of the Lord. Be careful. Nonetheless, sermon for a different day. But he comes back. He says, this is your wife. What are you doing? Why'd you put this curse on me? Take your wife and get out of here. You would think he'd learned his lesson, but he didn't. You flip your Bible a few chapters later, and he does it again. He does. I was afraid of dying. What a coward. And then you kind of think about it. You add to it the weight of the Pharisees who believed that Jesus was who he said he was, but they were afraid to say anything because the popular religious crowd would have kicked them out. And John is way more prolific in his analogy of the human heart here. He says, they glorified men more than they glorified God. They wanted the glory of men more than they wanted the glory of God. So I've got a good theological foundation here, y'all. There is an extreme difference between a desire for the glory that comes from God and a glory that comes from men. And you and I have to determine which one of those is the most important to us. Is it the glory of men or is it the glory of God? And I pray today that it's the glory of God for you more than the glory and the desire of the approval of men. Proverbs 29:25, it says it this way: the fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. He goes on to say this, the Bible, I wanted to bring the greatest commandment that Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and the second one's like it, love your neighbor as yourself. I'll contend this, that you can't really love people the right way until you've found a love relationship with the Lord. You're going to have a hard time putting those things in the proper places. And our human hearts are idol factories, and we have a tendency to want to worship created things over the Creator. And y'all, we're going to be in this process till the day we die of being able to die to our flesh and what our desires are and to be alive to the things of God. And so I want to, with just a theological framework here, just argue and contend for this reality. Let's put God and His value at first priority in our lives, and let's put human relationships second, and let's live for the glory of God by loving and serving those that are around us. Let's not clamor for popularity. Dad, this might get a little bumpy here, so hang on with me, all right? When I was in middle school, I went to Stroud Middle School, Stroud Tigers. Dad worked at Farm Fresh. Now it's Highland out there on the interstate in Chandler. I don't know if you've ever seen it. But anyway, we moved to Stroud, and I was a middle schooler. Now, when I went started fifth grade there, and 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, that's where we went. Well, I ran around a crowd who I think, for the most part, were some well-to-do people. At least they presented themselves to be well-to-do people, all right? Well-to-do kid, middle schoolers, little middle schoolers, you know what I mean? And so middle schoolers are talking about middle school stuff. And a lot of that time was about, what kind of, how much money you had and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, one of the things that was a taboo for the middle schoolers in 1988 and 89 and 90, what was taboo was for you to wear clothes that came from Walmart. They had like spies out looking at which kids got their clothes from Walmart. So my greatest fear was Mom picking up clothes at Walmart. Not because I had anything against Sam Walton at all. It's just because I knew that if I showed up in a Walmart shirt, I was getting put in a category that I didn't want to be in. So I was like, please don't buy clothes at Walmart. My mom went to work at Sharps, and it was the greatest day of my life because it meant she got a discount on non-Walmart clothes. I was so happy. But here's what I decided to do in the sermon today is I wanted to minister to my middle school self today, if you don't mind. And I wore a shirt that I bought at Walmart today. And you know what, Brenda? It's comfortable. And I make this shirt look good. And if you think you ought not buy clothes at Walmart, I don't care. Yes, sir. That ain't for nobody in here but me. I've grown. Let me take that off of that and put it on something a little bit more serious. My sister, many of you know, passed away in 2001 from a car accident. My sister had a rough growing up. Rough. I had a front row seat to some of the things that she was put through. And it was not good, to say the least. My sister always struggled with a sense of belonging. As things escalated towards just before she passed, I was working at the emergency room one night, and Misty had let me know that Nikki was coming in. And she came into the emergency room, and she came in, and she was bloody, beat black and blue, bloody. The crowd that she was running with stopped her on Main Street of Kearney, drug her out of the car, and beat the hound out of her. And the ambulance drove her to Stillwater Medical Center where I was working. And so I got to the privilege I wish I could give back of cleaning her face, talking to her about what happened, talking to her about her need to get out of that group and find some other group of friends. You've got to do things different. You know, I was giving her the big brother speech as I'm cleaning blood off of her face. That got to the point where the reason that she was living with Dad in Washington State was because and trying to get her out of that situation. Because every time we thought we had her out, she just went right back. Am I right? What is she looking for? What is she trying to get? Some belonging. It doesn't have nothing to do about wanting to get your face beat in. It's because she doesn't know what she was going to do without them. I'll die if I don't have them. And so she would always go back. There was always a promise that things would be better. There was always some big bully doing something dumb who would say, I'm sorry for that, which is what bullies do. And they would say this would be different, and she would go back. Now, I will guarantee you, I didn't know anything about all of this then, but that's what's playing out in her heart. It's just this want to be liked by someone. And I would say to my middle school self, you are loved and accepted in the gospel of Jesus regardless of how much money you have. I would tell you that. I would tell Nikki today that you are loved and accepted in the gospel of Jesus regardless of what has been done to you or who has left. You don't have to be hurt anymore to find belonging. I don't know, maybe this isn't your issue, but man, y'all hear me. Human approval and the desire to be liked is of the utmost temptation for me. Randy, I appreciate you. Last week, Randy and I had a situation that happened here in the altars. He said something that fed into my weakness, and I said something back that fed into something that broke his heart. You say, were you arguing and fighting? No, not at all. We were just bearing our hearts to one another. And here's what it was over, y'all. I'm going to preach this sermon today, and I'm going to go home. And it will not be until Monday afternoon before I'm able to start thinking that this sermon wasn't horrible. It'll take till Monday afternoon before I start thinking that you guys didn't think it was terrible. And I have tried to shake that since the first day I preached. My daughter, when we got back from Africa, she spent much of the afternoon in her bathroom, locked in there, not letting any of us in, while Ramaya sat on the bed, patiently waiting for her to come out, like a good friend does. She wouldn't talk to us. And I am like, I know exactly why. She's afraid that she'd done such a bad job that you guys would reject her. Because it's the same thing I feel every Sunday morning. It's sad, I know, but it's true. And I can't shake it. I'm better, and God's growing me, But I sometimes wonder, like I told Randy, I don't know if this is the thorn in my side that the Lord will not remove to keep me from pride. I don't know. If it is, praise be to God. Here's all I'm trying to tell you, is that I have an innate desire to want to be liked. There are some of you that I should have openly rebuked, that I didn't. And the reason I didn't is because I don't want you to not like me. It's real. And I battle it today. This is what my heart is craving. So I want you to like me. But here's the tension. But the Lord has called me to this space. Now, I would love nothing more than to do anything else other than stand up here and proclaim the truths of the Lord, in so much as it depends on human understanding. But I love the Lord, and I want to do what He's called me to do, and I want to honor Him. But so many times it puts me in this space where if I stand up for what God wants me to do, it's going to mean somebody's not going to like it. So there's a tension there. Are you with me today? Are you understanding what I'm saying? Am I navigating this okay at all? And so here we are now, right? We're in a culture of human approval, and here we are standing for things that God is asking us to stand for, or to be someone that God is asking us to be, or to search after something that only God can fulfill. And there's a great tension, isn't there? There's a great tension. If you plan on, maybe you're not planning on preaching, but maybe you're planning on leading anything, then you have to set out real early. Who do I want to please the most? The Lord or the people? Your popularity culture will tell you to lend yourself to the popular folks. But I don't know if that's what Jesus did. Jesus lent himself the other way. Let me close. You say, okay, Pastor, that's great, wonderful, beautiful. I'm with you. I get it. Now what? Now what? Can we change our hearts? Craving? I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. Takeaways for today. What do? You and I need to develop a deep love relationship with the Lord. You say, oh, seriously, that's what you're going to say? I hear that all the time. Okay. All right. Probably ought not run away from good, solid truth. Maybe we ought not just hear it. Maybe we ought do it. So let's look here. Watch how this works. For all the people pleasers in the room, I hope you perk up. 1 John 4:18 says this, there is no fear in love. You're running around trying to make sure everybody is pleased. There's no fear in love. You're afraid of what they're thinking about you. There's no fear in love. That's not really love. Chasing and trying to please people is not really love. There is no fear. Why? Because there's no fear in love. If I am afraid of losing a relationship with you based off of something that I've got to do and perform, that's not really love. There's no fear in love, he says, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. Hebrews 13:6 says it this way, so we can confidently say, the Lord is my helper, I will not fear. What can man do to me? As I develop my relationship with the loving relationship with the Lord, as love goes up, fear goes down. As love goes up, the fear of men will go down. As my love for God goes up, my fear of men will go down. And so it's almost a natural thing that begins to happen, is that as we pursue after a loving relationship with the Lord, our fear of men will decrease as our love for God will increase. You'll find out, and we'll find out, that it's like that in all of the other categories too. As our love for God increases. So how do I get my love for God to go up? Number one, Evaluate your friends. Community matters. Be active with a community of believers who are striving for the approval of God over the approval of men. Y'all listen to me. It's water for us that we're streaming in. How can I say this in this way? The fear of men is water that you are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week engaged with. And so we need a community of people that we are interacting with, that their highest priority is a love for the Lord. And if you're not running around with people whose highest priority is a love for the Lord on a routine and regular basis, the stream that you are in, the culture that you are in, is going to consume you with a fear of men. A popularity race, trying to click in with the right people, know the right ones. And if you haven't, you're going to have an overwhelming feeling of rejection, that you're not worthy of love, that you're not valuable, or you're going to have an overinflated idea of who you are and that you're more valuable because of who you run with. So listen, y'all. Church community is important. All of y'all that are involved in a missional community group, perk up. There's a couple of things that we need to get right. One of those things that we need to get right is, first and foremost, that if somebody comes to our missional community group and they are pursuing after a love relationship with the Lord, we have sinned against God if they don't feel like they can be accepted there. It is sinful and in need of repentance. We don't let somebody sit in a corner by themselves with just so-and-so and just so-and-so. That cannot be our approach when we see someone new. It can't be that, because they're going to hang around for a minute and then they're going to realize I don't fit there either. What a tragedy. I mean, our message is the more dysfunctional, the better. You have a seat here. God forbid if somebody pursuing after a relationship with the Lord can't find community. And here's the deal, y'all. The church is the only place that they will find an ulterior community. It's here. Everywhere else, it's about performance. So may they find community. May you find community. Get serious about your community. If you don't have it, find it. When you need help, who do you call? Who are you talking to? Who's the most influential people in your life? Are they seeking after the things of the Lord? I pray they are. That's how you grow in the Lord. And number two, and I don't know how else to say it, but we need spiritual disciplines in our lives. I mean, I can't say it any other way. I mean, you know what I'm saying? If you want to look like a runner, run. Right? If you want to be healthy, do the things it takes to get healthy. And in regard to our spiritual lives, we need to act on spiritual disciplines. Get up 15 minutes early. Get a devotion going. Start your day off with the Lord. End your day with the Lord. Get some sort of rhythm about how you are pursuing after the Lord. And as your love for the Lord will increase and the fear of men will decrease, if you're serious about it. Last thing I'll leave you with, and I'm done. I wrote this out this way. Rejection. Is it real? Is it real? Now, I will assure you that some of it is. But there's an interesting text that I'll leave you with. It's John 8:44. Listen to this. All of you who are like mind people and you kind of paint scenarios of people in your mind before you ever have a conversation with them. You know what I'm talking about? You guys who really, let somebody have it while you're taking a shower or something. You're really reaming somebody out, but you're never going to say anything, but you're reaming them out. That's who I'm talking to right now, okay? This is really good. Listen to what John 8:44 says. He's addressing the Pharisees, and they're trying to say, "No, we're right with the Lord. Abraham's our dad." He's saying, okay, here's who your real dad is, Satan. That's what he said. It's a beautiful sermon. He says, "You are of your father, the devil." That's what he says. "And your will is to do your father's desires." So now Jesus is going to let us peer into what Satan's desires are. And listen to this. He was a murderer from the beginning. I know another place says he's come to steal, kill, and destroy. Satan's trying to destroy you, man. And Jesus says it from the beginning. And does not stand, hear this, in the truth. Because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character. He's a liar. For he is a liar and the father of lies. And I'm going to tell you, people pleasers, the enemy loves to get you all worked up about people who have rejected you. You say, what are you talking about, Pastor? Do you know how many times we used to have Sunday night service? Y'all remember that? Sunday night service? And I'd preach on Sunday morning, and I'd have to come back. We're preaching Sunday night too. Well, I would preach what I thought was a clunker. I mean an absolute clunker. And I'd show up, and I'd make myself go open the door when y'all got here. I made myself. I felt so terrible about what happened before, and I'd open the door, and here y'all would come whistling and coming on in, and then 9 times out of 10 times out of 10, one of y'all are going to walk by me, and you're going to look at me, Pastor. I say, oh, here we go. I got one foot back, ready to defend my sermon. That was the most amazing message I've ever heard. What? Were you even here? They'd throw their arms around me. Thank you so much for being faithful with the word. I just spent all afternoon convinced that I needed to go sell cars or something. And guys, hear this. And it's in here. I'm not trying to say it's in my mind. This is how I felt. The enemy is a liar, man. He is a liar. I've been noticing that I walk into rooms and I feel like I don't belong. I naturally don't feel that way. And there ain't nobody. I see somebody, 2 people talking over the side. I'm convinced they're talking about me. Where? At Walmart. I feel that way. Church too, but it don't matter. I come in. And I started to notice that ain't true. Them cats don't even know me. So all you people pleasers who think you got to do this and this and this, or else somebody's going to reject you, the enemy could just be lying to you. And further trying to seal something that he knows is going to keep you from the heart of the Lord. Let's don't be people pleasers. Let's be God pleasers. Pay attention to your heart and what it's pursuing. The heart matters. The heart matters. And we want to be approved by the Lord over the approval of men.